What's going
Hello and
on?
welcome. Wonderful people.
Hey,
Really happy to be here again on this Friday. This is episode three. Very exciting of the show that we're running called No Particular Reason. And I'm here with my co host, Kerri. And Kerri, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
hey guys, my name's Kerri Lewis, and I am known as an addiction and mental health recovery coach, but I'm so much more than that. And I just really enjoy great conversation with people who are doing things differently and showing up in life on their own terms, which is why I love doing this show. So, Yanko, you just disappeared, but do you want to share with everybody who you are?
Yes, of course. And I'm Yanko. I am your co host, and I'm a hypnotist. I do hypnosis and I help people change things about their selves that they're not aware of, something that might be a block or anything that might be preventing them of getting to the place they want to be. Perhaps even something that it's not even conscious, something that's deep into their mind. And I also love taking people on journeys and past life experiences in life between lives so they can get in touch with their spirit and get more spiritual.
Cool. I've been doing this work for a long time. I still cannot regress myself to past life experiences. I'm like, I guess I'm not meant to know. And I'm good with it. But for any of you watching, we were 13 minutes late. And I think it's a really good place to dive in because I was so irritated, guys, just keeping it real, over jumping into Restream. And Yanko's cool as a cucumber. He's like, well, we're just living in the moment. Here's the reality, guys.
That's right.
I am a very joyful, happy go lucky person, and I still am human. And so I get to be irritated by experiences I have. And for a real long time, I believed that I'd reach a certain level of healing, a certain level of spiritual experiencing or enlightenment that would cause me to be free from human emotion. And I think it was last week I reached out to Yanko. I said, crap, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm still gonna feel the feels. And so I mention that because I think for anybody who is curious or has some insight around higher levels of consciousness and really moving up the ladder, so to speak, we're a human having a human experience, and we are going to feel feelings and have thoughts around whatever it is we're experiencing in that moment. For me, it was irritation around jumping into technology, um, but then honoring that. I think the difference that I see from me and other people is not judging the fact that I'm irritated, not like avoiding it, just feeling it, speaking it, and then as I do that, I just move through it. It also helped that I ate a chocolate brownie, guys, because I was hungry and I really love chocolate. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that, Yanko?
chocolate brownies always help.
My daughter makes the best chocolate brownies. When she comes home, I'm like, so baby, making brownies today?
Yeah. Well, see, that's something I also enjoy doing. Um, Obviously, I enjoy eating different types of foods, but lately I've been experimenting with different, like cooking different foods
Yeah.
in kind of um, in a creative way that kind of brings me joy, mixing the ingredients, getting everything fresh, watching the whole magic happen in the front of you, and then taking it out of the oven and just dipping your finger on whatever you're cooking and testing it for the first time. It's exciting every time, I tell you.
Yeah, I had a real resistance to cooking because I had to cook for 5 brothers and sisters when I was young, and I was young. I didn't know what I was doing, and they're picky, and they're miserable, and they're cranky, and so I really didn't enjoy cooking until I lived with my ex-husband, and he cultivated that, like, the fact that every day it's new and you can experience different flavors and you can experience
Hmm.
different techniques. And so I really do enjoy preparing a meal. And I also love showing up from a place of love and wonder. So when I'm cooking, I'm incredibly present, very present, like just taking in the sense, feeling the knife go through the onion, just anything. And like you, it brings
Right.
me a lot of joy. But I'm curious, going back to experiencing emotion, right? So I reached out to you and I'm like, oh crap, you having moved through different levels of consciousness than me, and pretty much as far as I've known you, it's just like, ah, just go with the flow. Do you get irritated?
Well, sometimes I do. There's still programs, but usually, if something irritates me, um, I gotta look back and see where's this coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and trace it back. And um, a lot of the things in that I'm like exploring, and I'm doing this work because I enjoy it, and I also enjoy researching it, and I also enjoy bringing the same benefits to somebody else through the work. Because
Yeah.
once I have the in and outs and the experiences, then I can say, well, this is what worked for me. This is what didn't work for me. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you, but there's different things that you can try and see. The bottom line is to be able to catch whatever it's happening, so you're not running on autopilot, like you're not allowing things to just happen just because they're happening. Like, just because you have a thought of eating a bunch of food doesn't mean you have to go and start eating it.
Mm-hmm.
um, and a lot of those things are not even present and conscious level. A lot of those things for me are popping up, and I might not even get to it right away, but the deeper mind has a wonderful way of structuring things. Once you give it a task, it'll go find it and it'll bring it up to you. It might not be immediate, but say if you want to remember something and say, "Oh shoot, I don't remember this password or something," for example, then you say, all right, I want to remember. And then maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes later, or maybe even in a day, I had um, passwords that I didn't remember, but like I, I had this feeling like I'm going to remember it. It's going to come to me. And it's like every time that thought comes in, I'm having that expectancy of this information coming to me. And so towards the end of the week, I already forget about the whole thing, and then all of a sudden, that password popped up out of nowhere with no context or anything. I'm just listening for music, and then boop, here it is. I'm like, wow, you know.
Yeah.
So
I have that
it's kind
experience
of like
too.
that.
And it's interesting.
Yeah.
So something that you said that I work a lot with my clients on is, you come from a place of curiosity, not judgment, right? So you say, you get
Hmm.
irritated by certain things. And again, kind of like me, rather than judging myself for being irritated, I just jumped on and kept it real with you. And I've always worked very well with speaking my truth. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm great. No, man, I'm irritated. But secondly,
Yeah,
um,
you're not great.
yeah, no,
People
well, no,
can
because
tell.
if I say it, I move through it and then I'm good. And then I'm genuinely okay, right? Because I'm just,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah.
I'm aware of it, whatever. But when you come from a place of curiosity rather than judgment, oh, why'd I have that thought? Or why am I feeling this thing? To your point, the when you ask yourself, you will ultimately get an answer. And I go a step further with people. Like,
Hmm.
we try to heal ourselves by overthinking, and that does not work, guys. It's just not going to work. You can't think your way into moving beyond a belief or a habit. What you can do is recognize it, ask the question, and then let it go, release it. And for anybody who's interested, there's a wonderful book called Letting Go, Pathway to Surrender by Dr. David R. Hawkins. It's dense. He was a medical doctor and a scientist, but it really expresses in simple forms, as soon as that irritation comes up, or as soon as that thought comes up, or as soon as that memory comes up, you honor it, you acknowledge it, and then you say, I release this, and in doing that, you start to heal. And that's why, for anybody who doesn't know, I talk openly about being a two-time rape survivor, domestic abuse survivor, going through really hard experiences, but there's no emotional attachment. And it's not that I thought my way through healing on that. I didn't sit on a therapist's office and better no, because then I would have been reinforcing those experiences. What I did was, when I experienced angst or suffering or whatever it is that came up in that moment, I honored it, and then I asked for it to be healed. And over time, it just healed itself. I didn't have to do anything. Each time I just honored it, let it go, honored it, let it go. And that is how I truly, genuinely show up for most of my life. And then there's that occasional have to deal with technology. And then I'm like, no. And that's primarily because I've decided that I don't want to do anything I don't want to do anymore. In fact, I just said to somebody right before we were on the call, it's like, I love making introductions. I love putting like-minded people together. I am so good at getting people together. I'm a connector. But I don't want to send an email. So if you're not good giving me your phone number for me to do a video to put you in touch, totally cool. I respect where you're at, but I'm not going to put you in touch because I respect where I'm at too. And it just doesn't feel good for me anymore.
That's right. Yep. That's pretty much how Kerri operates,
Oh, yeah,
and I respect that. Yeah.
I really do.
So so
But
yeah. I mean,
going
go
back
ahead. I'm sorry, I
to
cut you off.
energy, though, science has shown that when you show up fully authentic, which I really hate because it's so overused at this point. But what I would say is, when you show up as your own unique individual self, whatever that looks like. For me, it's wearing skulls, swearing, covered in tattoos. I don't wear a bra. I show up in all black. That's me. You get me whether I'm teaching at a school that way, going to a board of directors meeting. That's who I am. When you can show up fully expressed, really, truly understanding what feels so good for you, what brings you joy, you emit an energetic frequency that is greater than love. And if we're talking about manifestation and or experiencing joy and stuff, when you're in joy, guess what you attract? You attract joy. So why wouldn't I want to be 100% me? Because I want to attract people who are 100% themselves, whatever that is, so that way we together can just be joyful.
Right. And that's one of the things that I notice a lot working with people is that um, there's this self judgment and shame of thinking that you have to present yourself in a certain way to be accepted, um, or you have some kind of like idea of like how would you look successful, or how would you prep for occasion or something, and that gets in the way. That just gets in the way, and I'm guilty of that too. Like a lot of the times I'll like do different things to like experiment and see what works and what doesn't work. But the bottom line is that you working on yourself and you constantly improving. You're not happy of just saying this is who I am and this is how it is, and I'm not willing to like think outside the box, or and expand, because like the minute you make a decision that you know how something it's going to happen, or how you're supposed to be or whatever, you're limiting yourself up. That's it. You're shutting all the opportunities off because you're not open to whatever comes in. You're not on flow, or whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah.
that's how I think of it.
But
But
you know what? So
yeah,
here's
emotions
the thing.
are
I'm curious. Well, I actually know. But because I had the fortunate privilege of interviewing Yanko. But for all of those who don't know, right? You didn't grow up and say, "Oh, I'm going to be a hypnotist," right? And so your journey is really interesting. And one of the reasons I love this show, and being able to call you a soul brother, like family, I really see that, is how you show up. But how did you become Yanko, who does go with the flow and recognizes that program and is now able to help other people through hypnosis to do that? I think it's important that people have at least a basic understanding that of
Right, right, right.
of your own
Yeah,
expansion, because
no,
we're always
yeah,
expanding.
and right, and to what you said, like, couple years back, I had a near-death experience, which kind of changed my perspective on life. Um, I but until that point, I had totally different values, totally different priorities in life. Everything else was just, it was just like, I don't know. I was running on autopilot most of the time, and that
Yanko,
kind
your
of bumped
information.
me out of my comfort zone. And
Put
I'm
up your
sorry.
information so that way people can get a hold of you. As
Oh,
fabulous as I am and everything,
yeah.
guys, saying.
No, that's okay. That's going in automatic or whatever. So it's not a problem. I think people know us by now because we're both sharing in our, feeds and things like that. Um, but to back to what I was saying is that, people now that knew me before, that work with me for very many years, they say that I'm totally different person. Like I'm not the same person. So I don't know exactly what changed, but I kind of get snapped out of maybe the dream I was dreaming, if I can put it that way. Because like, until then, I wasn't married. I didn't had any goals or anything. And in that moment of like going out of this world, this entire thing played out. And I was thinking like, this is the entire thing. Like I was born, I grew up, and here I am, nothing to bring to the world. There's nothing. And I kind of felt, I don't know, I won't say I felt sad or anything, but I felt like I felt like I'll do better next time. And I don't know why I thought I'm gonna do better next time. Because like when you're in that kind of position, you're not thinking much because you're like you're dying, And it's like, oh my god, I'm dying and I don't want to die. You know what I mean? So, um,
I'm curious,
yeah.
do you
So
feel that
that's
way
that's where
now
the change. How?
about dying?
Well, now I don't feel like dying yet. It's the last step. I think, and this is why I do what I do, because I think the soul never dies. I think we're a spirit having a human experience in the body that we coming into, because at the beginning, I was like, maybe people were hallucinating when they're hypnotized. They're coming up with all this weird stuff, or they go back to Stone Age or have all kinds of stuff going on. Like last week, I had somebody that was from another planet. It was on another planet, and they were living as a species, as a collective of like flowers, and and he told me how they look like, how their heads look like, how they're eating, and how are they connecting and communicating apparently through like a root kind of system in that
Yep.
planet. But they weren't the only species on that planet. There were other species that were also involved, but they were kind of like a um, vegetable, I would say, but also aware of like thoughts and things. Not and I can't tell that. I don't know for sure if our plants have that kind of awareness. um, but at the end of the thing, he just finished with the lifetime and he went to the light and come back is having this human experience.
Hmm.
So at the beginning, I was kind of skeptical about the whole thing and thinking, well, they're just like people are making things up or whatever. Um, but if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it must be a duck. That's
Yeah.
my conclusion. So
Well,
I'm not afraid of dying because I had that. And then I kind of have inner peace because like after that event, I had to go back and look into my lifetime and see that I also had two other close encounters where I could have died, but I didn't die, which kind of like let me think that maybe it wasn't my time to go. You know, when
Yeah.
my time comes in, I'll just go. And now I'm thinking, well, I either go or I just want to be able to consciously leave this body, get around everybody when I'm ready to leave, and say, "Hello, everybody. It was nice vibing with you and everything, but I'm gonna leave my body, and I'll just leave the body, and that'll be it." That's how
There
ultimately
are
that's how I want to end it.
of there are hundreds of accounts of people doing just that. Specifically, it's a much more obviously Western ideology is different, but uh in India and Eastern, you know, culture, there are a lot of people who have left their body, just decided that they were ready to move on and have consciously.
Yeah, I think um, consciousness it's something deep that we're not even aware of, like the levels of consciousness one can experience, and we're just kind of dipping our toes into like maybe the outskirts of a little bit and testing the waters and see is it warm or how is it or whatever. um, because the work that I do gives me the ability to tap into different perspectives, some different life forms and different experiences, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Which it's really priceless for me to say, because if I'm seeing a perspective of somebody that haven't left in earth, but experience love in a different level that we're not even aware of, that's another perspective for me. You know,
Yeah.
this is something totally different. So that brings me a lot of joy, and I look in different ways how I can myself experience consciously differently in different ways every day, and also brings me joy to be able to do that for somebody else, to be like, hey, this isn't it, like there's levels and levels of like ways where you can go into different things. This is just the beginning. But
But would
yeah,
you not agree?
that's
Like, you know, again, for me, and for anybody out there who has any questions and wants to jump on, this is meant to be interactive, and we do want to be of service. So, you know, I work primarily in mental, physical, and energetic health and addiction. You know, Yanko works with belief systems, habits, utilizing your subconscious. So we have a wide range of experience and wisdom that we can happily tap into if any of you guys have questions. But going back to what you were saying, for me, I've never experienced really any of that. But I do know from a very visceral understanding, like just a knowing that I'm love and I'm meant to show up as love. And that's it. And that's all I need to know because I'm highly intuitive. But like I'll hit somebody up at the right time that they need to hit them up. And I don't need to know why I'm being called to hit them up. And to your point, where a lot of people limit themselves because they overthink, they're like, oh, Sally Sue came to my mind, but I haven't talked to Sally Sue in 10 years, so I'm not going to hit Sally Sue up because Sally Sue's going to think I'm weird. Whereas I'm like, hi, Sally Sue, you crossed my heart. So I'm just calling to say what up, right? And that's the difference. And so for me, but I also want to highlight, so with this, with working with people in addiction stuff, where you and I are at is so out of the realm of understanding for a lot of people. Like if I had this conversation about, you know, yeah, my good friend Yanko hypnotized somebody and this person was a flower on another planet, they would be like, I'm sorry, what? Because
yeah,
they're
yeah.
they're they're
And I
so,
get that a lot. And I get
oh
that a
yeah,
lot.
well, they're stuck in
Yeah,
their
if they
ego,
ask me.
right? They're stuck
Yeah,
in their thinking minds. But
yeah,
to your point, we don't know what we don't know. So I never make a judgment one way or another. I'm always just like, well, that's interesting because it really is. And truthfully, I don't care, because if that's your experience, that's true for you. Whether it's just in your mind or if there's a planet full with conscious flowers, like, it doesn't matter. That experience is true for you. And when we as humans can stop judging or like deciding what is right or wrong, what is true or not true, then we open ourselves up to beautiful experiences and possibilities that you wouldn't otherwise have, because you're operating from a very limited belief system.
Yeah. And most people are not even aware that their experiences in life are subjective, they're not objective. So
Yeah.
everyone, they experience the world in their own way, in whatever their experiences are, they base their reality based on previous experiences, kind of like putting sunglasses on and everything looks kind of darkish and gloom and nothing goes your way and poor you or whatever, until you decide to take the glasses off and all this light shines at your face and you're like, wow, that was something else. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everyone experiences life the way they do, and 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 people choose how they want to live their life.
You just
And
nailed it, though.
sometimes it,
You
yeah, and
just said something
sometimes,
that's so important. You get to choose.
right, yeah, but you know, sometimes they choosing things the wrong way, because in one point or another they want to have a bad experience, so they get, you know, they don't do something else. Like for example, you know, I come across this on I'm reading a book, um, and I'll tell you what the name of the book is. It'll come to me. But the example was that, you know, somebody was stuck in home and didn't want to go out and was afraid to go out, and he was doing that, and people thought, well, maybe he's having a fear of going out or not wanting to go out for, you know, because he's just, you know, had a traumatized childhood or something else was going on, but they were making assumptions. And and it turned out that he was doing that because he was looking for attention from his parents, not because he was afraid to go out or anything. um, his parents, you know, usually if something's wrong with your child, you know, you want to go out and see and investigate, and that person wanted to be special and have all that attention from the parents to, you know, go and see, hey, are you okay, do you want to come out today or tomorrow or whatever. So sometimes people do things in in the wrong way just to get a goal. So whatever their goal in life is, everyone gets what they want. That's the bottom line. There's no, um, oh, maybe poor me or whatever. You know, a lot of people get to that point because they decided to be that way. You know, they maybe they didn't want to face the music, maybe a conversation was not something they were looking to do, and they found a workaround, maybe calling sick from work or not going to meet their boss or something else, just so they can, you know, find an easy way out of whatever they needed to do.
Yeah, but so, I mean, I think that society as a whole looks for easy ways out. Like, I was working with a client who
Oh yeah.
works out but won't do legs because they don't like it. And I said, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, because I do things that I don't like because it has taught me incredible resilience. And how do the two correlate? I'll tell you why. For me personally, this is how I equate it. You know, if I know that, I mean, I don't love legs either, but I want a butt, so I have to work legs unless I go get plastic, and that's not what I'm willing to do. So I have to work out legs. But because I do the really hard thing over and over again, when I have a miscarriage or my parent dies unexpectedly or whatever, I've already trained my brain to be able to navigate hard experiences. And so I'm able to navigate unexpected situations and stuff because I do the hard thing rather than the easy thing. And I think that when we opt for the easy way out, we're not teaching ourselves resilience, and we're not teaching ourselves the ability that we can trust ourselves to get through hard things, even if it's just a leg workout, because a leg workout can be really challenging. Working your quads for me personally is very difficult. So so I think that's one thing, but I would also say, going back to your example in this book, when people make choices like that, consciously or unconsciously, they're operating from fear. There is some level of
Right.
fear there, right?
Yes.
Avoiding a tough conversation with your boss, or when you said that this gentleman, kid, whatever, was looking for attention from his parents, I remember, oh my god, I was blatantly obnoxious. I mean, I still to this day am totally inappropriate. People, like, if you hang out with me, you're just going to shake your head. My kids are mortified by their mom quite often, but I learned that coping mechanism because I'm one of six. My parents were not present at all. I mean, physically they were there, but mentally and emotionally they weren't. And so I would do these absolutely outrageous things to get their attention. Of course, I was always punished. So I'm really, really good at cleaning floors, taping asbestos laden ductwork, did all that because of it. But I did that because I wanted to be seen. So I totally actually get that, and it wasn't until I was older and did the work, I'm like, "Oh, that's why." But interestingly enough, though, that behavior that I you know, did caused me to then create this belief that I was bad. I was intrinsically bad and unworthy. So, it was really, really detrimental to my mindset for a long time because I needed to be seen and I wasn't. So I did things that then made me feel like I was bad. And yet I kept doing them because that was my pattern of behavior and my belief system at the time.
Yep. Yeah, usually it works that way because everyone wants to be hopeful and complete. And then I always think of it that way. You're always full, whole, and complete. And as you're operating that in that level, something bumps you out of your comfort zone, and then you look for ways, in not like a long ways. You're looking for the quicker way to go back in harmony, whatever that means to you, because your harmony could be people screaming around you and doing weird stuff because you get used to that.
Yeah.
And when you get out of that environment, everything will be like weird for you because people are not doing that in other places. And you're like you're going to another country, you're like, what's going on here? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So that's usually how it is. But everyone has the capacity to change. It doesn't matter what age.
So I
Everyone
have
has the
my
capacity
belief,
to show up as the best version of themselves.
but that's, I do believe that too, but I'm curious. d- I lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was going to say. Don't listen to me.
I'm sure we'll come to you. I,
I'm
I do the
sure it
same
will.
thing. Sometimes I just like I go on a tangent and then something and I lose the track
Oh,
of what I was
well,
gonna
that's the
say,
thing is,
and then
so
usually it comes to
everybody has
me.
the capacity to change, but would you not say, yes, we're all whole, whatever you say, whole, whatever, complete, cool. But then we're meant for expansion. And guys, if you're not expanding, you're contracting. That's just real. That's why I tell people, if you're not working on your mental, physical, and energetic health every day, it's contracting, because we live in a conscious universe that co-creates. We are co-creating, we are creating, right? Um, but if we're trying to do the easiest way back to whole, healed, and complete, would you not say that that limits people's ability to learn self-reliance, to learn, um, you know, what they're capable of? Because most people I'll give you mental health industry. Hey, you can take Xanax when you're anxious. Let's just pop some Xanax. But that person
Right.
doesn't now know I could go on an airplane and practice breathing techniques. Sure, it's harder because I have to focus my attention. I have to keep bringing my brain into this, but I will experience the same, if not better, benefits than just popping a pill. So the point is don't you think
Yeah.
it's for me, I believe it's important to do the hard, like do the hard way versus the short way, because the hard way is teaching you just how capable you are.
Yes. Um, but in the world of duality, people not always choose that way. People get to choose whatever they feel like they want to choose. Um, and this is, we're kind of like a stream of water. We're always in motion. So you
Mhm.
like it or not, you're always moving. If you might not expand as much, but you're always going to have challenges, and they're not going to go away. You're not going to be like challenge free or emotion free or whatever you think you're going to be free of, because that's the whole point of having this human experience, to go through like different things, because like water always runs downstream, it doesn't go backwards. um, and so there is always options, but how you see them, it's again like putting the glasses on. If you don't want to like see all your options, you find the first one, you say that sounds about right, and you just grab into it. And you give your power away. That's another thing. If you give your power away to somebody else to decide for you how you should be living your life, that's the other thing. So if you give your power away and say, well, I'm gonna get fixed because this person is gonna fix me, but they're not inside your body, they're not you, how will they know? That's the only way you can do it, is if you do it yourself. There's no
That's
other
why I
way of
have
like.
such a resistance to programs. Like, it cannot stand my 12-week program is going to make you no, it ain't. No, it ain't. It may give you some tools, but trust and believe, like you're a unique individual. There's no program out there for Yanko gotta figure that out. There's no unique program for Kerry Lewis. I, over the course of, God, 20, 30 years, holy crap, 30 years, have figured out what works for me, and every day it changes and it's different, and so I agree with you that we are going to suffer, but when we take the easy way out, I think we suffer more. I think we suffer more.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. I'm still learning a lot of those things, and it's all an experience for me. I usually see it as polarized as much as you do. You either see it as good or bad, hate or love, or whatever the opposite is, white and black. You make up your mind, and to me, it's all an experience. And if you don't want to have the experience, then don't have the experience. If you want to have a different experience, then go have a different experience. The best way I think it is this way. I used to go out and drink in club and stay up to the morning, and go on after parties and do other things. But now as I'm getting older, I it doesn't vibe with me anymore. So at one point that might not be my experience, say, all right, I'm gonna have a different experience. Well, I'm gonna go home and sleep because that makes me happy at this point. So anything in life, and it's like experience, and you can label it in any way you want to. You can label it as bad or good, or and that brings me back to that story. Maybe I'll tell you a story. I like telling stories. That somebody was living in a village, and he had a herd of horses, and one day his son forgot to close the door, and his best horse ran out, and everyone in the village was like, oh, you're going to lose the way of reproducing horses, and you're going to lose your business, and that's really bad. And the guy said, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, because I don't know. and they didn't thought about it much. But then 2 weeks later, that horse come back with a wild herd of horses, bringing more horses in. Everyone in the village is like, "Oh, this is really good." But then he still stays neutral and says, "How do I know? Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I don't know." And he doesn't make up his mind. And then a couple of weeks later down the road, his son starts to ride on one of those wild horses and gets kicked off and falls down and breaks his leg. Everyone in the village thinks that's a bad thing. Look, if those horses didn't come in, your son now wasn't going to have a broken leg. You know what I mean? But again, this maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. You never know. And then maybe a month later, a war comes up and everyone gets sent out to war, but his son didn't get sent out because he's with a broken leg. All of a sudden, everything is good. So the moral of the story is you don't know. You can label it any way you want to. You can say this is good or this is bad because you don't know where you're going, what the final destination is, and that's how I think
Yeah.
of it.
It's funny. I've heard that story many times too, and I think about the Tao Te Ching when you say that, because the Tao Te Ching talks very much about the feminine way and flow and just going with the flow. But with that, guys, it is 2:54, and we're going to be wrapping up until next week. Thank you all for your grace with me showing up late as I navigated my experience with technology, good or bad, whatever.
there,
And
there,
I look
there you
forward to
go.
being here next week.
I love it. Thank you, Kerri, and thank you all for checking out with us. Come check back with us in next week, and we'll be happy to have you. And watch for no particular reason.